non... Sorry, Jay, do we have...
Well, obviously, we need to be quorate for any decisions to be made. Hello, Fiona. What's quorate again, Jane? Can you remind me?
Yeah, not enough at the minute.
All right. Well, I might be corrected about this, but I'm assuming that the quorate is required for any decisions to be made. But notwithstanding that, we can go through the procedural items, get ourselves on the way.
Yeah.
So I'll say welcome and apologies, Jane. Do we have apologies?
We do. Apologies from Alison Chambers, Steve Cox, Jill Curtis and Bernadette Caffrey.
Okay, so we've got 4 apologies then. Great, so you should all have a copy of the minutes and the actions from the previous meeting, which was on the 16th of December. So I propose that we just have a look at those for a minute, check their accuracy and then any matters arising from them. So on the first side, if you've got them all in front of you, on the first side, any changes? On the second, the third, fourth, and fifth? Well, if there are no changes to the accuracy of the minutes, I can confirm those, Jane, then, to be the case. And the summary of actions, there were 3 at the bottom there. Mr. Gooding confirmed. This was an action for Andrew Merry. The working group had met, but they were waiting for information from Andrew. Andrew apologised for the delay, which was due to the finance team being short-staffed, but the required information should hopefully be available by the end of September. Andrew, do you want to comment on that?
That was issued, that was dealt with. I undertook that and circulated the information required before. Okay. I think it was before the end of September. It might have been a bit later, but it has been circulated.
Good. Okay. Thank you. And then item number 2, Mr. Gooding reported he had not received any information regarding the S106 and SIL funding. So Andrew confirmed he was currently verifying the information and would send the confirmed information as soon as possible. Apparently, Mr. Gooding said that he was sending a freedom of information request to you, Andrew, regarding this, but had not received anything. And you confirmed he would action this. You would action this as soon as possible. Can you confirm that was done?
That's not been done yet. That action hasn't been completed.
That action hasn't been completed.
It has not. No. There was a paper being taken in council around section 106 and SIL, and I wanted to see what the advice was on that before issuing anything. That's now gone to Cabinet, or going to Cabinet in December, so I will issue as soon as that has happened.
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, then thank you, Andrew. Yes, that'd be appreciated. And then number 3, they're all for you, Andrew, I'm afraid. Confirmed we speak with Mr. Gooding regarding the information required about the SEND funding, and he would allocate a member of the finance team to attend meetings of the Task and Finish group. Andrew, can you confirm that?
Yeah, that's happened, and I'm attending that working group.
You are indeed, because I'm on that group too, so I can confirm that. Okay, so I think they were the matters arising from the meeting on the 16th. Yep, pretty good on that one. So in that case, then we move to the annual election of chair and vice chair. Now, this is obviously a decision that has to be made, so I need to check that we are now in fact quorate. So Jane, can you confirm that?
Yes, you are now quorate. There are 6 members in attendance.
Okay. Right, well, in that case then, Jane, obviously this is for the chair and vice chair positions. Do you want to conduct this vote then?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Had various elections not so long ago, so the membership has actually changed. A list of the new members is attached in your pack. We have received one nomination for Ben Solly to be the new chair. We have received no further nominations. So would anybody like to second the nomination?
Yes.
Fiona, I think you put your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. If Ben wants to stand.
I don't have a chance.
Yeah, I do.
Then can I have a show of hands, please? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
So moving forward, Ben Solly will be the new chair. And do we have any nominations? Do we have any nominations for the role of vice chair?
Traditionally, we'd have somebody from the primary sector to balance the secondary being chair, but I'd suggest one of the primary colleagues steps forward if anybody's willing to be nominated.
I mean, obviously we had Steve before. Steve's not with us today. Do we know? I mean, I assume Steve would have put himself forward by now if he wished to be considered.
I haven't received anything. I mean, what I can do is I can email everybody, all members outside of this meeting, and do it via email that way and get a vote in that way rather than do it now. Okay.
Right. Well, in that case then, Jane, it remains my final act as chair, I think, to hand the baton over to Ben. Is it effective from this meeting?
It's entirely, well, in practice, no, but in theory, yes. So it's entirely up to Ben. I mean, because you've agreed, Carl, this agenda and the reports, so this could be your last meeting, and then we could formally hand over to Ben at the start of the new year.
I'm happy for Carl to do that, because if he's prepared all the paperwork in liaison with the other colleagues, it's only fair that he gets to run this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm happy to do that. So in that case, then we'll proceed on that basis. So in that case, the next item is the funding update from Andrew. Andrew, back to you.
Yeah, so the first point in there is this paper is asking for a decision. So we are asking for a decision on transferring 0.5% from the schools block for the high needs block for 22-23, and also asking for a direction of travel and information in relation to inflationary increase on rates paid to mainstream schools from the high needs block. So this is in relation to SEM rates again. The first part of the report covers where we are against 21-22 financial position. The schools block is showing.
Sorry, can I stop you 1 second, Andrew? Sorry, can I stop you 1 second? I can hear some extraneous conversations. I don't know where that's coming from.
I'm in the office today. Yeah. So there's other people in the office.
Sorry, Andrew, is there no other room you can go in? Because all we can hear is the people in the background.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm just going to have to move rooms then.
Thank you.
The other person on the call has gone into another room.
So right, okay. Okay, so say that again, just for the benefit of everyone. I'm not sure everybody caught it. So the first one was about transferring the 0.5% from the high needs block.
From the schools block to the high needs block.
And the other one was?
Inflationary increases on rates on SEM rates paid to mainstream schools from the high needs block.
Yeah.
There's not a decision on that, but it's more of a discussion point that Schools Forum need to have.
Okay. Well, can I ask first of all then for colleagues to consider and offer their views on the proposed 0.5% transfer between the schools block to the high needs block, which is in fact something we've done for a number of years. Floor's open. What would people like to say on that matter? Well, can I ask if people are wishing to raise any objections then to that proposal?
Carl, my view would be if it's something that's been happening historically and this group's agreed that, then I would be happy to support it going forwards.
Okay. Thank you, Ben.
I think it needs to carry on as well, Carl.
Oh, hello, Sharon. I hadn't seen you, so I wasn't sure. You're there now, so good to see Sharon as well. Yeah, no, well, I think I'm sensing that we should just move to a vote on that straight away. So on that basis, then the proposal is that the 0.5% transfer between the school block and the high need block takes place. Those in favour, raise your hands, please, either virtually or in real life. Anybody against? Abstentions? You got all that, Jane? I think that's carried, yeah.
That's unanimous, Chair. Thank you.
That's unanimous. Brilliant. And then the second item is one for discussion. Now, this is the inflationary increase in funding, which is outlined in your papers. And there's a little table, isn't there, Andrew, with the actual impact of those inflationary proposals. Would people like to offer their thoughts on that? Does anybody have any objections to the proposal that those take place? If not, and taking it, Andrew, that the vote isn't required on that matter. Am I correct then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. It's more around when do we think these rates should apply from? Is it from the new financial year? Is it from the start of term 3? Is it that we don't do them? We do. What schools' views in terms of whether or not we should increase the rates or not, based on the impact it will have on the high needs block. So what I've said is the inflationary increases I'm talking about will impact the high needs block by 180,000, give or take a few thousand. Clearly, with the high needs block is already in £1 million in deficit. There's no additional funding we will receive as a result of this. So in the context of that, what the schools forum think we should do, or they recommend that we do in relation to mainstream schools and the funding we provide from the high needs block.
Well, views, anybody? Views, colleagues? What do we think? Obviously, there are implications for the high needs block, which is already running a substantial deficit. The question is, do we have any choice? In the real world, people have got to be funded at a rate that they're prepared to accept. Otherwise, they won't do the work. It's on page 15 in your pack. It's item 3.2.3. That's the table. I mean, I'm not sure that we have a, I mean, you know, I'll express my view. I'm not sure that we have any choice, to be honest with you. I think, you know, if we don't do this, then the implications are going to be considerable. So you're you know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But I think that we've got to keep the funding rates up with inflation.
That's fair enough. I'll work with Dawn Godfrey and Bernadette to come up with a plan as to when we're going to implement the rate increases from, when they'll apply from, and we'll communicate new rates to schools when that's happened.
I mean, normally, Andrew, I would assume that the rate was increased at the start of the new financial year. So I'm wondering why that it wouldn't apply in the same way with this.
we can increase rates at any point. That would be my ideal, would be from the 1st of April 2022. We would apply the new rate.
Do colleagues have any views on that?
Yeah, Chair.
Fiona.
I think, yes, there is a need, but I think we probably need to be guided by Andrew a little bit as to when. There's definitely a need.
Well, yes. So, yes, I mean, I think people are probably struggling to know what reasons there would be for putting the rate increase at a time other than the start of the financial year. But obviously, this is an opportunity for people to make that case. Do people think in the forum that therefore it's reasonable to suggest, as based on what they know and understand at the moment, that an increase at the start of the financial year would be probably the best way to approach it?
Chair, Dawn Godfrey has her hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Dawn. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, Carl. I was just going to add to what Andrew was saying, and just in terms of from our perspective, and obviously it's for you as Schools Forum to indicate what your view is, but certainly from our perspective, our preference would be to implement the new rates on the 1st of April 2022.
Yeah. No, well, that's very clear. Yeah. And is there anybody then in the room that would differ from that view? Because I'm sensing not, but this is an opportunity for you. Okay. Well, on that basis then, I mean, in the absence of any contrary voices, it seems that is the view in forum. So if you can take that information forward, that would be much appreciated. Okay. So then we move on to the next item, and that is our DSG Recovery Plan. I think, Louise, that's on your list.
Hello there. Thank you. Yes. So you've had the report. I'll just scamper through the kind of key areas that I think it would be helpful to draw out. The summit, I think, was really helpful for us in terms of getting an understanding of that context regionally and nationally. And some of the work we did later on in the day has definitely been informing the task and finish group, which we've alluded to already in the meeting. I think the first meeting from reports that I've had was energetic. It had a set of actions that went alongside that. So that's been incredibly helpful in starting that conversation about how do we want to fund the resources that we put around children with SEND in schools. The second meeting, I think, was less well attended. I mean, my guess is that it's been, I alluded to it as I came into the meeting, it's been quite a punishing term in terms of the amount of work there's been to do. I suspect that it wasn't well attended from that point of view. But when I had a brief email exchange with Tricia Nicol, who's facilitating that group and supporting the families as well, who are also the parent carer, Rutland Parent Carer Voice people who are attending there too as well. She's looking for third week in Jan meeting to sort of resume that work. So any actions that people have got for that, please can you try to undertake them in time to kind of get some energy behind that again in January when we've all had a break. That'd be great. So just as a quick a few highlights, the education inclusion panel is going brilliantly. 100 children have been supported already through the panel. I know that Caroline and I are to discuss earlier in the new year how we want to take forward that primary panel arrangement. So that will be a discussion for the panel themselves because it's sector led. But we want to talk about what we've learned already over the last year so that we can shape the conversation around that with partners there. There were as we saw this time last year, an uplift in numbers of children being put forward as cases at this stage. I think that's something to do with the way the academic year works. The second half of this term the second term, if you like, as it is in new money, always seems to be a time where you know, where children have gone through their initial induction often, and then things start to unfold in terms of their needs. So that's not unexpected, but it has put a lot of pressure on the EIP panel for this particular term. And so some of the cases have been pushed forward into next term, but also I know that Caroline's been putting some work in place for children outside of that panel process to make sure that we don't have children excluded. So that's really great. The senior speech, language and communication needs specialist that we have commissioned has started working really effectively with our early years providers. That's both the settings that we have, but also our childminding community as well. There's been an assessment done in all of those settings, and most of those settings now, to help work out how best to support early years providers, and obviously also with the Children's Centre to make sure that we have really great communicating environments in our early years situations. I was just going to scamper through to the next part of the report. So just the other area that's a big piece of work is working with Uppingham Community College, who are the lead partner, you'll recall, for the work we're doing to ensure that more children with EHCPs can remain in mainstream successfully. That is a priority of our centred inclusion work, our strategy. We're at the stage where we're working on feasibility options, particularly for an interim solution, but looking at the longer term solution for children coming into UCC in 2022, so September. Now that's not a long time away, which means that the school are carrying risk at the moment. They're having to accept consults prior to having the places actually confirmed. So that isn't actually on your risk log there, because that risk has been escalated since this paper was written, but is sitting as a high risk. However, I think the way that the project board is meeting and managing and handling the arrangements and the planning is exceptionally good at the moment. I don't have any concerns about that. Ben's obviously in the meeting as well today. You know, I think we're progressing in a way that seems agreeable. So yeah, that all seems full steam ahead for that. And then I would just come to the final, and there's a bit of a timeline in there that gives you some idea of the timing for that. But until we get the feasibility study back, we can't say for sure what might happen in terms of the capital spend. That's going to be reliant on having those professional opinions. But we should have that information for you in January. Ben, is there anything you want to add? Sorry, before I keep going.
No, I was about to sneeze and I didn't.
Okay.
I've got nothing to add. We're meeting fortnightly at the moment, aren't we, rather than monthly, like it says in your report?
You're right. Yeah.
No, other than that, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you. And so yeah, so the areas for next steps in terms of the SEND recovery plan, because obviously we've just described additional pressures on the high needs budget again. You know, we're getting great feedback from people about the panel. We can definitely demonstrate that we're reducing the number of children who are being excluded, particularly at secondary. We can certainly identify children who are not progressing through to have education, health and care needs assessments. Schools are telling us which children those are. I haven't even mentioned Nurture project, but that's again the nurture provision moving to become a mainstream part of our offer. But of course, that's also giving us traction in that area as well. So yeah, just on to the next steps then. So we'll carry on doing what we're doing at the moment. There's an increased focus on secondary. It's running in a different way, as I will have described in many reports before this, in a much more targeted way, working particularly with pastoral as SENCO teams in each of the schools. I know that that Stuart was able to give some really good feedback from the last time, and I haven't heard that anything's changed in terms of Catmus, and obviously the other two head teachers are here, so you know we're getting great feedback from the work that's happening there with the IP. We'll obviously continue to review the impact of the recovery plan. I think at the next meeting there'll be more information from Andrew. We're all the time working on what impacts each of these projects is having. It's very clearly put in Andrew's report, and I know in mine as well. You know, we have to look at these as a whole. There's no way of identifying any one project what impact that is having. So we have to look at the kind of the overall impact of all of the projects together. I've mentioned the task and finish group. It's probably also worth mentioning that in the agreement we collect, it's a notional fee, it's a tiny figure really, but we collect £1 per head for against the EIP work as people sign up to undertake to be part of the partnerships. We didn't collect that last year, but we are going to collect it this year. So we're working on the headcount figures for that, and it will be part of the drip feed. So it's £1 per head for primaries. Okay, is there any questions on that particular part?
Can I make an observation if that's okay? On page 22, you've got the middle box says by end of March 2021. I'm guessing you mean 2022.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, that'll be a mistake.
No, it's I'm just being trivial, but I just...
No, you're quite right. We're undertaking the feasibility as we stand at the moment. Shall I progress to the next report?
Yes. Yeah, there's a strange sign that came on my thing saying unmute, but yes, absolutely. If you wouldn't mind, Louise, yeah.
Thank you all. Okay, so we're very mindful that the work on the early years pathway, you've had overall reports, you've had reports as part of the Dsg Recovery Plan, but we kind of felt it would be helpful to give you a little bit more information about exactly what has been achieved over the last year. There's been a huge commitment from all sides, really, and it's been being facilitated by Sen Consultancy. The report gives you a lot more information. You'll recognise that, so let me just go through my notes. So the whole point of this piece of work was to address some of the concerns we all had really about SLAs not being in place. We wanted to be really clear about what the provision was offering, so that we could do better planning and those things. We wanted to bring those things about by this stage really, and address any. There were some concerns from the school quite openly expressed as well. So we asked Sen Consultancy to come and do a piece of work for us. They facilitated regular meetings between ourselves, the school governors, the Senko, and the head teacher, the exec head, and and ourselves, myself and Bernadette. There was a jointly agreed action plan, and we worked on a vision which we put together, and we're really clear about what we wanted to do. Over time, we worked on different options, and the school came up with an option that seemed agreeable, which was more about a kind of community facility. It's been slightly slowed down really in the last couple of 3 months by the kind of by the fact that the school are moving towards academisation, so what we've done is we've repositioned the Sen Consultancy work so that it's focused on our early years providers, but taking on that option 6 work so that we can sort of make it a bit more tangible. And so the plan is to take that back into that meeting with Oakham CE at the end of January. And so we can start to unpick what the model would look like within that kind of academisation model really. So that's the plan. That's where we've got to. We're really encouraged that all sides are still saying they really want to continue with the work. It's been affirmed, and that's what we'll plan to do.
Excellent, thank you, Louise. Very very comprehensive reports, and really good summaries. What would colleagues like to add comments or questions to Louise, please? You've obviously overwhelmed them with your mastery of the detail of those items, Louise. So in the absence of any other comments, is there anything you want to add before we finish with those items? No? Okay. Right. Well, it just remains for me to say thank you then for all the people working on both those elements. There's some excellent work clearly taking place, a lot of it. And we appreciate the update. So then we go to any urgent business. Have we got any urgent business, colleagues? Not seeing a hand.
No, none raised, Chair.
Okay. Well, then in that case, then we have our forward plan. If I can just refer you to that. So that's at the end of your, should be at the end of your papers. Just trying to find my own copy, if you will forgive me. 16th of September. The forward plan is just there to enable us to know what we think will be the main items on the next agenda. And obviously, Ben, you're in the chair for that, so you may have a view. Paul, your hand's up.
Sorry, that was a legacy hand. I'm so sorry.
Legacy hand, that's absolutely fine. Yep, so you can see that now in front of you. The next meeting doesn't actually state the date of the next meeting there, Jane. I assume it's sometime in February, March.
3rd of March, Chair.
3rd of March, yeah. But there'll be various things coming up there, school capacity returns and so on and so forth. Yeah, nothing that I wouldn't expect to see. Anybody got any items they would like to add to the forward plan for the next meeting? No.
Louise has a hand shared.
Louise, sorry.
Yes, I just want to check because it's a norm on the whole that you want to send update from the recovery plan, but I'm very happy to not do one if you prefer that.
Well, I mean, I think that there have been a number of meetings this term where most people in this room have got updates to a certain extent, but you can't assume that will always be the case. So my temptation is to say at this stage, we'll just do one, and then if there's not a lot to report, then you can say there's not a lot to report.
That is a regular item. So obviously the 3rd of March agenda is additional items over and above the regular ones. So there's the two sections. Obviously in the regular items, there is the Dsg Recovery Plan, there's the in-year reporting. Yeah. And then what the other one says, what additional reports are we going to bring? Yeah. Is detailed further down. So we've always got the standing agenda items and then additional reports further down.
Yeah. Okay. If nobody else has got anything else that they...
Carl.
Yes, please.
Hi, it's Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to add, you haven't mentioned the early years. You've talked about the early years pathway, and it's mainly to do with SEND. But we have got a school forum working party for the early years, and we have got things that we would like to be bringing forward. So could you make sure that we are put on the agenda for 5 minutes each meeting?
Yes. Well, I mean, I can recommend that. Obviously, Ben is going to be in the chair, so I pass over to him. But I would say yes, that seems entirely sensible from my perspective.
Mary, I was struggling to hear you then. Can you just explain what you wanted on the agenda next time?
The early years, nothing to do with what the piece of work Louise is doing. This is just about the general early years working group, and we do lots of work in the background, and then we report back to the school forum to say we talk about lots of things, and we like to bring it to the forum to get guidance and to be rubber stamped. And at this moment we haven't really been heard much this last couple of months, and I would like it to be a proper agenda item where we've got something to say.
Okay, I'm quite happy to talk to you on a one-to-one outside this meeting if you'd like, so you could explain that in a bit more detail to me. But
okay, well, what it is, Ben, we normally have a school forum working group. I do apologise, I've just had an extraction and I can't really talk very well because I'm still all numb. We normally have a school working party, school forum working party, that any sort of issues that's raised within the early years, we bring it to the school forum. The school forum helps to guide us, support us, and give us some suggestions of things that we can do. And if we need backing to go further on, then the school forum normally does that. Ben, what I will do, I will definitely meet up with you and I'll show you the things that we do within our working group.
That would be great, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Chair.
You're on mute, Carl.
Me, is it? Sorry, do beg your pardon, everybody. My mistake. Yeah, so finally just confirming the date then, 3rd of March 2022 for the next meeting of the forum. Thanking you all for your contributions and wishing you all a Merry Christmas. Okay.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
See you. Take care.
Bye.
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 Thank you, Carl.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.